There is a reporter, an interviewer, a correspondent for CNN, Cable News Network. His name is Ralph Begleiter. I saw Ralph Begleiter interview Tariq Aziz live yesterday. Tariq Aziz, in case you don't know, is the foreign minister, the #1 stooge for Saddam Hussein. And I think that Ralph Begleiter did the finest interview I have seen in a long, long time. In a field dominated by lightweights like Larry King and Barbara Wawa, to have someone like Ralph Begleiter really probe, someone who was informed, someone who was not kissing tush, Ralph Begleiter. I don't know the gentleman, I've never met him, but he is absolutely superb. What a magnificent interview. You know, it's very difficult for a lot of people to interview somebody like Tariq Aziz because they know the person is lying. If you're Ted Koppel, you don't want the guy to say, I'm not going to be on Nightline anymore if you are not nice to me. And this is the risk that a lot of interviewers take. If they're good interviewers, they take the risk. But if they're feckless, if they're craven, if they're shallow entities like Larry King, then of course they'll say anything and everything to make sure that the guest not only comes back, but that the guest says, gee, I enjoyed being on with him. He's a great guy. At any rate, if you
agree with him that Israel is the exception, or what is it you agree with?
Let's not make anything complicated here.
Well, all right, let's be very simple. What is it you agree with there?
I believe that Israel is the only country. As a matter of fact, I believe that Israel does believe that inevitably Saddam Hussein has to be destroyed, has to be taken down. He says that it's a falsehood. That, quote, let's quote him directly. He says, falsehood. Israel is virtually the only foreign country that believes military action is the best course for the United States to take. He says that's false. Well, what other country believes that?
That's what I said to you, and you said that you didn't agree with that.
No, no. What I said was you're making it sound complicated.
Oh, I am. Oh, I see. Well, I guess what I asked you was, I'll go back to my question, then you said you agree with everything he says. Apparently you do not agree with that statement. Because my question to you...
Let's start all over.
Okay.
Let's start all over.
My question to you is, if this is a falsehood, what other foreign country has come out in favor of military action by the United States?
None.
Okay, so he's all wet here, isn't he?
He's... either I'm doing something wrong, you're doing something wrong, or we're doing something wrong.
Well, you see, he
probably is me. It can't be you. But the fact of the matter is, on the Middle East, I agree with Abe Rosenthal virtually 100%. However, in this particular case, I don't.
Okay. You see, this is where I saw this as a problem to me. He made this an issue with Mr. Buchanan. That Mr. Buchanan said that Israel was virtually the only, he did say that was virtually the only nation that has been talking about military action by the United States. And Mr. Rosenthal says that is not true, and the only reason Buchanan said this kind of thing is because he's anti-Semitic.
I know.
Yeah.
Abe Rosenthal made a complete jerk of himself in that issue.
Well, we're certainly in agreement there.
Yeah.
But I think he also kind of made a little bit of a jerk of himself in today's column, too.
Well, the test would be... See, I've tried to get Abe Rosenthal to talk, if not to come in the studio to talk on the phone.
Terrific.
He avoids me like a plague.
Why?
Why? Because Abe Rosenthal is an elite snob. Abe Rosenthal thinks he's too good to have to answer questions from somebody else.
There's a second reason, too, for you. The other reason is he doesn't probably want to come on with somebody who knows so much.
Well...
Because if you know a lot about the situation and the problems and the concerns, then he just can't walk over you.
Well, let me say this. If I were able to get him to come on the program, importuned him somehow or other, maybe if I assuaged his ego or told him how omniscient he was, how great he was, maybe I could get him on the program. And if I did get him on the program, I'd say, Mr. Rosenthal, sir, humbly, I beseech you, on bended knee, I ask you, sir, what other countries do agree that the best course for the United States to take is military action? Please tell us what those other countries are. If you notice, he doesn't say what they are in his column. He doesn't say it's Egypt. He doesn't say it's Saudi Arabia.
No.
He doesn't say it's any country at all.
No.
With a possible exception of Kuwait, and he doesn't even say Kuwait.
No, he says nothing.
No.
Well, nice to talk with you.
WA is saying is fine, but what disturbs me is the fact that callers like Mary and those other jerks who are obviously mad because their welfare check didn't come, these jerks who want to silence all opposition to what they believe. They are and that guy, that bigot, that anti-Italian bigot, how dare he put a halo around his head when he is a vile, filthy, hypocritical scum? I would disagree with him on that. If that's what he said, I would disagree with that.
That's exactly. Leslie Stoll was so flabbergasted that she didn't even have a follow-up question.
Well, that's good. I'm glad. At least David Duke did one thing good. He got Leslie Stoll flabbergasted. It's about time she was flabbergasted.
Well, I think a lot of people that were watching didn't expect him to let his guard down and let the real David Duke show.
It's funny that only you noticed it because nobody else commented to me.
Well, maybe not many of your listeners were watching.
Well, do you think I come in contact only with people who call a program? Do you think my life...
Are you saying that it didn't happen, Bob?
No, what I'm saying is, why do you take that attitude, Adele?
Well,
because I'm telling you, the first person who mentioned it, why do you take that attitude? I'll tell you why. Because you don't like my reaction to your call. That's why. I'm not falling down.
I haven't gotten a reaction to your call. What is your reaction?
My reaction is to thank you for the call. What do you want me to do? Send you a bouquet of flowers?
Well, I'm glad that you thanked me for the call.
I mean, what am I supposed to do?
You're very
Be
welcome.
grateful because you told me this is the first time I ever called a talk show.
Yes.
Hooray! We'll make October 8th a national holiday. Adele called a talk show. Get off my phone, you big mouth. Eileen, you're on.
Once I've conveyed it, racism is the ultimate man's inhumanity to man, and the morality in us, which is intrinsic in most of us, allows us to rise above those feelings of racism and actually push them down deep where they belong. Because I think we all have slight feelings in that area. And we don't act on those feelings, though. We have urges at different times to steal, perhaps even to kill, and yet we quickly disperse those thoughts and don't act on them. But one man, a part of the very small minority, has felt so strongly about his racist thoughts and inclinations that even into his 20s has taken it as far as a person could in this free democratic society. He's gone out and has publicly conveyed these feelings to the public. Kind of redundant. And I'd like to understand how you can see a guy like this, even though he may have wonderful political statements to make, but the person behind those political statements is this type of person.
Oh, you're trying to sound so righteous, Nan.
Maybe explain it to me.
No, you're trying to sound so righteous, Dan.
I might. I come off that way, but I don't mean to.
No, really. So righteous. You almost gave us a little sermonette here.
I'm sorry.
Talking about man's ultimate inhumanity. What I object to is not you, the person, because I can sense that you're a very sensitive, decent guy, but what I object to is that so many people, so many white people, talk about racism as though it means one thing, and that is whites being intolerant of blacks.
No, I'm sorry.
And I detect that, and maybe you're the exception.
In New Jersey, I have a home. I hope they hit the sky. I want them to go as high can be. However, I will take, if the market brings it down, I'll accept that. Let the market fall free. Be consistent, Bob. Living in a democracy. And
Well, I am being consistent, and I'm telling you that a lot of people who are complaining they're not getting what they want to for their house forget what they paid for their house. I know people who've paid $40,000, $35,000, $50,000, and they're getting hundreds of thousands, and they're complaining. That's the point, George. You got it? Get it. You cavo.
I have tremendous respect for you. You're a great man, great intellect. Last night, I have a very, very sorrowful thing happen. Vito Corleone has to call you up and try to make the peace between you and your dear friend who's been loyal to you for many years, Arnold. He's been banned from the Bob Grant show.
No, he hasn't been banned. I just thought he ought to take a little vacation. He's overdoing it. He's trying to sneak in under the once-a-week rule. He's not like you. You see, here you are. You're a big man. You have great respect. People know you. An olive oil company decided to dedicate themselves to you.
Goes without saying.
and
Don't laugh.
and yet you don't push your weight around. You're very respectful, Mr. Corleone.
Always remember, man who gives respect deserves respect. You're a very important man in this town. I told you this a long time ago. And I feel very good that you have this attitude. I told Arnold we are not killers, we are not ruffians, we're businessmen. And I try to make the peace between you and him today on ABC.
Well, maybe you should pardon the expression, Don, a sit-down.
Goes without saying, one day, very soon, Arnold will be here with me and we will discuss this with you at length.
Maybe we'd have a sit-down in the back room at Angelo's.
Well, let's not go too far because I understand you could be dangerous at times.
Well, tell me what neighborhoods you feel safe in these days.
Well, I prefer to stay in Deal, New Jersey.
Oh, you want to stay in Deal?
We have a mansion over here, and I'm very, very happy.
That's right. Rabbi Dweck has pronounced your mansion inviolate.
Rabbi Schechter as well. Let's not forget him.
Yeah.
Very dear friend of ours.
I thought maybe you'd like to go to Stark's Steakhouse.
Well, I know them very well, and I'd rather not eat there because I owe them a tremendous amount of money.
Oh.
I like desserts, and I'd rather not go back.
What about eating in the Paul Castellato room?
It's very nice, but it's a dead type of atmosphere, I prefer the Carcass Mokakis. What's his name? That fellow.
Oh, Teddy Lakakis.
Yeah, he's a great man. Now, I was there with so many people, and I respect him because he came to this country. He was a broken-down man, and he made it to the top.
Well, he was a 15-year-old boy who had no shoes. He walked down the gangplank of the Eftichios Protopapadakis. That was the name of the ship he came over on.
That's right.
The Eftichios Protopapadakis. He walked down the gangplank barefooted.
Fantastic. The man is a great man.
And he had to get a tetanus shot because he stepped on a rusty nail.
Goes without saying.
Yeah, that was when he was 15.
Oh, Mr. Grant.
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to laugh. I'll be serious. I made the peace with you, and there's no more I could say, and I know you're very busy. And maybe someday next week I'll call up and we'll have a sit down with Arnold.
It's always a pleasure, Don.
For now, I'll say Spatagita. God bless you and your family, and if you ever need anything, I predict if you have anything in the future, you'll know who to call.
Benedict.
Ciao.
Tu pure, ciao.
Cosa
Okay. Okay, glad you're on. He said if I need anything. Okay, anybody fool around?
Yes. I came today from Israel.
Another guy just came from Israel. Now we're going to hear another first-hand, unbiased report.
On Tower Air, Flight 31. I was there at the Temple Mount.
All right, this is two. So far, it's two. We're probably going to get everybody and his brother telling us. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
I can't believe you're aligning yourself with Mr. Red Concho already. I don't understand you. You seem to come off as a...
Oh, cut it out, you little pipsqueak. I'll say hello to Scott. Hello, Scott. Are you there, Scott?
Yes, Mr. Grant. How are you?
What's on your mind beside how I feel?
He wants people in Jersey to vote for him, but he won't tell us what he thinks about Florio's tax package. And that would be perfectly fine with me, except that this phony, this hypocrite, he voted against David Souter because Mr. Souter wouldn't reveal the way he felt on the issue of abortion.
Good point.
And so once again, in Mr. Bradley, I think we have the typical liberal Democrat who talks out of both sides of his mouth.
Very good. You're right on target.
Thank you, Bob. And, Bob, yesterday you mentioned Douglas Berman, the New Jersey State Treasurer.
What a jerk.
Yeah, I don't even know if you're aware of this or not, but there was a fiscal report released while you were away, which showed that the revenues for the month of July in New Jersey, tax revenues that is, were much higher than the state had anticipated. And it was asked of Mr. Berman if this meant that Florio would consider repealing some of the new taxes. And Berman said no, because those revenues had already been, quote, allocated for specific programs, unquote. So, in other words, Bob, they've already spent it. That's basically what that means. And I read that and I thought, whatever happened to the big lie about needing these taxes to cover a monstrous budget deficit? You know, all right, but that's it. And one final point I'd like to make with you, Bob. I'd like to touch on something that I talked with you about the last time I called. Do you remember the conversation we had?
Quite frankly, no.
What should you do about the situation of Kuwait?
What do I think, what, dear?
America should do about the situation of Kuwait.
Where are you from?
Manhattan.
I mean, prior to your arrival in Manhattan.
What?
Prior to your arrival in Manhattan, where did you live?
Like in the village.
Where?
I've always lived in Manhattan.
I don't believe you. Are you ashamed of where you're from?
No.
Well, then why don't you just come right out and tell me?
That's where I live in Manhattan.
Huh?
I live in Manhattan.
No, I didn't ask you where you lived. I asked you where you were born.
In America.
Why do you insist on telling me that? Do you think I'm not going to like you if you tell me you were born somewhere else?
No.
Mm-hmm. Does anybody ever accuse you of sounding like a typical New Yorker?
No.
Mm-hmm. You want to tell me where you're really from?
That's where I'm really from.
Want to tell me where you grew up?
Here in Manhattan, New York.
No, you didn't. You didn't grow up in Manhattan. Nobody has a foreign accent that grew up in Manhattan like that. But if that's the way you want to have it, if you're ashamed of where you're from, I don't know why you should be, but are you? Are you ashamed?
No.
You want to say anything more for the edification of the listeners who think that maybe I might be unfairly questioning you?
No.
You want to ask the same question that you asked in the beginning?
Okay. What do you think America should do on the situation of Kuwait?
Kuwait. Uh-huh. Bianca.
Yeah.
Where were you born, Bianca?
In America.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Then after your birth, you moved out of the country and you were raised elsewhere, huh?
No.
No. Well, as far as what I think America should do, we're doing it right now.
Christy Whitman. That was just.
Are you on a car phone?
No, I'm not. But I am on a
speaker phone.
Well, no, not a speaker phone, but one of those wireless phones.
Well, get in closer to the mouthpiece, please.
Conair phone is the name of the company.
All right.
All right. Listen, the reason I was calling, I disagree with the Christy Whitman ad only in the respect.
One thing you don't agree with.
That's a very important thing, Bob.
All right. Well, then vote. Hey, look. Vote whichever. Get off my phone, you dumbbell! For heaven's sake, what a stoop! Guy sounds like he's been gargling with cheap whiskey. Anyway, blah, 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 blah. I can't stand people like that.
For senator, there's 99 other people who watch him in there. None here.
Well, unfortunately, the way the polls look, he probably will win that race. And Connecticut then is telling us that there are a bunch of dopes up there.
We would have voted for Florio, probably, if we're going to vote for him.
Yeah, because you can't find anybody more ultra-liberal, more out of touch with mainstream America than Lowell Weicker.
Well, we agree, and that's a frightening prospect also.
Yep, yep.
Anyway, thanks, Bob.
Okay, you got one guy that would really be good there, and you got two losers.
Name the good one.
Well, it isn't Morrison, and it isn't Weicker. Who does that leave?
The one I'm voting for, Rowland.
That's right.
That's the only thing we can do.
John Rowland, he's a good man. He deserves to get it.
Excellent. Thanks for the chance to talk to you.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Yes, hello, Bob. Teddy the Swimmer Kennedy is a punk, and were it not for his parentage and his father's bootlegging, stock-manipulating money, he never would have achieved a status higher than local bartender in a pub in South Boston, where he made a little book on the side and possibly a little pimping. Along those lines, his proclivity for fornication, the only thing I can hope is suddenly I start seeing him getting very thin. Well, that off my chest.
I get the point.
You get the point,
yeah.
Bob. I got your point when you mentioned that earlier, too. And I watch him on television. Maybe one of these days I keep watching. A few pounds here, a few pounds there. You never know. We might get lucky. But I think the people like Kennedy, what they have in mind for our economy, along with the tax bill that they've got proposed to Democrats, is rampant inflation. Now, myself, I'm a cop, and some 15 years I've been a cop. And that's all I have to submit to you, Bob. I'm not an economist, certainly, but I'd like to see if you know what your comment on it is.
Well, you may not be an economist, but I think you're a very bright guy, and I think you put your finger on a big part of the problem. And I think I will light a candle. I've never made a novena, but I think I'm going to make a novena to achieve to make a reality out of your fantasy. How's that?
I agree, Bob. Thank you very much.
Metzenbaum, who comes right out and says, I'm going to vote against you, and tells him right at the beginning, or like the swimmer, the offshore driller, you know?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about this other senator from New Hampshire. What the heck's his name? Leahy?
Pat Leahy?
I can't stand him.
He's from Vermont.
Vermont, I'm sorry. To me, I don't know how these guys get elected. The guy seems so dumb when he was grilling Bork and even Judge Souter. I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you, Vermont has become incredibly liberal over the years, very quietly, inexorably. It has become a pinko state.
Yeah, that's for sure.
It's Ben and Jerry country, and you know, these guys, they give 10% to peace, whatever that means.
Yeah, right.
But Leahy will stay in the Senate as long as he wants because he keeps voting the left wing. Now, even their Republican senator, Jeffords, believe it or not, he was one of the 9 Republicans who disgraced themselves and voted for that so-called Kennedy-Hawkins civil rights bill.
Yeah, I know. That's a disgrace.
It's a disgrace.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
So-long.
And, of course, Hines and Specter of Pennsylvania also voted for the bill. God bless Al D'Amato. He voted against it, the only one here in the tri-state area to do so.
Still think we have some good men and women in this country. This is Eddie Carbone, your patient rights activist. And how can some of you stand by while I'm improperly medically treated and debilitated 3 times a week while helpless on the kidney dialysis machine in New York City at Booth? Have a good day, Bob.
All right, Eddie. As Eddie Carbone, they're going to name the West Wing of Booth Memorial Hospital after Eddie Carbone. I just know it. Paul, you're on WABC. Hello.
Well, it's even the same as His Eminence up in Albany. He forgot very quickly that Lou Lerman came within a hair of defeating him. And here we had a Republican joke. I mean, Pierre Renfray with Herb London, between the two of them, they almost pulled, I mean, the two of them, if you combine their votes at 40%, they almost pulled off a tremendous victory.
Well,
you look at it that way.
You add to that Lou Ween's 151,000 votes, and you find that Il Supremo just got maybe 53%, which is not really the big whopping victory he was supposed to achieve. They had him with 65 to 75% of the vote at one time.
And one of the most interesting things was in the exit polls, the people said they would not consider him presidential material anymore. So I salute him, and I salute all of the Democrats who think that this was some victory, and bring on Paul Simon.
Oh, listen, I tell you something. That is really something to hope for, because I don't like to go to bed election night worried. Has already been committed by Saddam Hussein, who invaded Kuwait.
And they have resolutions right now, and they're acting on all of the resolutions in containing that aggression.
Containing it?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, you know what that means? Do you mean to say, wait a minute, you jerk. Do you mean to say that we're supposed to keep our troops there indefinitely?
No. But I think that the question of wisdom of having gotten them there and keeping them there with that kind of an understanding, without a lack of command, without an extended supply lines, in that kind of heat, in that kind of situation, to me, I think you ought to question the wisdom of the people that did it. You're very easy to calling people jerks and so.
But you are a jerk. Not only that, you're a dumb jerk, which is the worst kind of jerk. You know, a jerk is bad enough.
You can call all the names that you want, but you haven't justified what the hell is happening. What are they there for? Are they there fighting for democracy when guys can't even pray openly? If they get shot at, are they going to be?
Well, what are you suggesting? What are you suggesting, that we just let Saddam Hussein off the hook? That we say, hey, you invaded.
When you're committing American lives, Mr. Grant, I think that the American.
Well, nobody's committing American lives. Why do you suppose anybody joins the service? Just to go into the commissary? Get off my phone, you vile creature, and get out of my country. Apathy. In the state of New Jersey, it's obvious. And Flim-Flam Florio is going to try to weasel out of his heinous crimes against the state. He's going to try to get you to forget. He's going to try to undo what he did. But I, for one, will never let you forget what he did. No matter how sleazy he tries to worm his way out, this pompous, arrogant, imperious individual, this humorless clod, kept saying we didn't know what we were talking about, that we didn't understand, that all the new taxes that had been assessed were absolutely necessary, that all of the changes in the tax law, doing away with certain deductions, were absolutely necessary. When it came to the truck tax, that is a special tax on any vehicle over 18,000 pounds, he said it was absolutely necessary. In no way would he rescind it. Guess what? He's rescinded it. When he said the putting of the tax on paper products in the state of New Jersey, toilet tissue and whatnot, putting a 7% tax on that, he said no way could they undo it because they needed every last dime. Guess what? He's talking about getting rid of that. His Commissioner of Education, Commissioner Ellis, scratches his head and says he's not sure he understands the reapportionment of tax monies for the funding of state schools. He's not sure? He's not sure? How dare he say that? He's the guy who went along with his boss, Flim-Flam, to enact such an outrageous program. And the one-time popular klutzola, Bill Bradley, he said he's learned. He's learned what? He hasn't learned anything. Because, God bless her, Christy Whitman asked the day after the election, she said, we still don't know how he feels about the Florio tax grab. And you know something? He still hasn't said whether he approved it or not. He still is shirking his responsibility as one of the highest officials, the senior senator from the state of New Jersey. And only because the Republicans didn't have enough confidence in their fine candidate did he survive. I dared to call Martin King a lot of names, one of them being a fake. And I've survived. And guess what? A story that I had reported to you way back last January of 1990, this January, about his being a fake when it came to writing his thesis for a doctorate. Some people said, how dare you? You would have thought I said something bad about God, for heaven's sake. But anyway, no, worse. At any rate, now it's come out. Now it's come out, yes, indeed, he did. He was guilty of plagiarism. But you know, this man in death anyway, has more Teflon on him than anybody in life, because the widow of the man he stole from says, oh, it's all right that he did that. Well, it's all right that he did that. We don't care what Mrs. Boozer says. She's the wife of the theologian from whom King stole the doctoral dissertation. What we're saying is it's the truth that counts, not what Mrs. Boozer thinks. But you know, for the past 4 years, historians studying King's papers have been disturbed by numerous incidents of copying without attribution in the civil rights leader's works. But they had generally kept quiet about the discovery, not wishing to discredit the reputation of King. I don't know why. I don't know why. Let the chips fall where they may. And Paul Tagliabue has the couillon, that Carbone, he has the couillons to say because the voters voted not to exchange Columbus Day for King Day, they're not going to play the Super Bowl there. And now they're even talking about taking the Fiesta Bowl away from Arizona. If King weren't a fake, if he were the great man some of you people think he was, he would be the first to say, hey, don't take a football game away from some state because they practice democracy. I don't want my birthday honored through intimidation. I don't want to be a national hero because someone blackmails the rest of the population into accepting me. But of course, he's not here to say that, but I'd like to think that in spite of everything else, he would say that. The portion, but anyway, go ahead. What's your problem?
Well, I was watching the Channel 7 national news last night, and they have I don't know who, I can't remember his name. He made a commentary on this subject. Maybe you probably know who it is, and he is totally against the thing of that the Super Bowl should not be held in Arizona, not the Fiesta Bowl, and so forth and so on. You know, and he says he goes as far as next year they should change the vote and vote King the holiday. You know.
And who was this jerk?
I guess he is a jerk. I don't know his name. I figured, you're part of ABC, you might know him. He makes sports commentary on the weekend. Would you have any idea who he is?
Does he have a beard?
Yeah, he has a beard.
I'll tell you who it is. It's an overrated, under-talented klutz by the name of Ray Gandolph.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the guy.
Yeah.
He made that point. And,
Ray Gandolph, if he had the brains to feel otherwise, wouldn't have the courage to express it because he'd be afraid that he would get the Jimmy the Greek treatment.
You know what he said? King was the greatest man of the century.
He said that?
Yes, that's what he came out with. Isn't that something?
Well, then he's just a pandering jerk, and I'm ashamed that he's on this network.
We know who to
Well, in this country, tens of thousands, if not 100,000s of non-white immigrants are changing our country from underneath our feet. I don't know why we want to go fight Kuwait when we have Koreans, Pakistanis, Bangladeshians, and a whole host of third world people changing our country right here. I do not want to speak Spanish. I'd fight against speaking Spanish, and I'll fight against the Koreans taking our country over. Why are we in the Middle East when they're invading us here?
Well,
I
think it's a rather strange question you're asking.
But a true one.
Well, what do you suggest, that we shoot them?
No, we end immigration and deport about 30 million.
I'm all for that. Thank you for the call. One thing about this program, people are not given psychiatric examinations to be heard. Obviously, they're not giving IQ tests. And maybe that's the appeal, that people who ordinarily would never be heard because they are so bizarre do get a chance to be heard. Ask you where you got your Ph.D. and you get very vague and slippery, for heaven's sake.
Excuse me, but I told you it was from Dallas Park University. See, there's a lot of people...
Yeah, you didn't tell me anything. You don't even want to tell me the town it's located. I'll bet you... Hey, were you ever really there, or did they send it in the mail? I mean, your degree. Your
My
Ph.D.,
degree?
yeah.
Well, listen, I'll tell you what. What I have done is
used a lot of various sources to learn about nutrition.
See, the guy wants to get off the subject here. He doesn't want to talk about his Ph.D.
Really? Have you,
And the New York Mets, they don't know you from the New York Mets.
Well, sir, if you choose to,
What did you give Buddy Harrelson, a foot massage? Come on. What is all this stuff?
Excuse me, sir. If you prefer to just sit there and berate me, that's fine. Actually, the New York Mets have used some supplements that I formulated.
No, I get very nervous when I talk to a guy and I ask him where he got his degree, and he's nervous about telling me.
Not nervous.
You should be proud of the place and tell me where it is.
Sir, first you must allow me to finish a sentence if you want to hear the answer.
Go ahead, finish it.
Thank you. I already told you. I got it from Donsbach University in California.
What university?
Donsbach. He is a recognized name in the field of nutrition. It is.
And what is he? Is he accredited?
Yes, he is accredited. It is not a...
What'd you write your thesis on?
My thesis? Sir, I don't feel that you're actually looking to get information on nutrition.
No, listen, pal. The more you call me sir, the more suspicious I get of you. I was suspicious from the beginning, but I thought I'd just ask you some straight questions and see how you deal with them.
Well, I did deal with them, and I gave you straight answers, and I'm sure that there is a ton of research. I certainly don't make these things up, and the research will back me up completely.
Yeah, when I asked you about your research, you went, well, I took research from other people.
Well, sure.
What other people?
Well, did you just get on the radio all by yourself, or did you learn how to do it from somebody else?
That's no answer. That's no answer. I'm not purporting to have all these medical facts here, pal. Hey, listen, I tell you what.
You give a very interesting interview. Obviously, you have no interest in...
Oh, I have interest. You know what I have interest in? I have interest in my audience not being fooled, duped, or otherwise confused.
But see, that's where the point lies. If a person is interested in their own health, they have to investigate it for themselves.
And you've been investigated. You've been investigated.
I think you should let me finish my sentence if you really want to.
All right, finish your sentence.
If a person needs to have a freedom of choice, you can no more believe anybody like me flat out saying one thing than you can believe a medical person. Everybody needs to take responsibility for themselves. My point is that you just can't blindly go along doing what everybody says, eating this type of food or that type of food because the manufacturer says it's good. And I'm certainly not telling everybody that they have to believe what I say. What I am saying is that the person must take responsibility and look into it for themselves because,
No, all right.
Do you agree?
A person should take responsibility, and I'm going to take responsibility for my audience and tell them to be very leery about you. And if you'll forgive me now, I'm going to write to that school and see if they'll send me a degree.
Well, you can try. I don't think they will unless you want to study for a couple of years with it. And I certainly...
You mean you actually were on their campus?
No, I didn't actually go to their campus.
I see.
Okay.
Where'd you get your BA? Or is it BS in this case?
Very cute.
Bachelor of Science. Where'd you get your bachelor's degree?
From Donsbach University.
Okay, listen.
Very interesting interview. By the way, I would back you up 100% in saying that you should warn people to not only be leery of me, but be leery of everybody, and when they're dealing with their own health.
Got to move on. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
All right, that's a guy who calls himself Dr. Kushner, and what more can I tell you? Except Joe Nolan is patiently awaiting in the Metro Traffic Control Center.
She asked him where he went to grammar school.
The people who want to create divisions in this country are very busy and they're hard at work. The pompous Pat Moynihan has wasted no time. All of a sudden, he's come out of the woodwork. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting that a Democrat like Pat Moynihan undercuts the president, and yet Stephen Solars, God bless him, and I've been critical of Steve in the past. When it comes to this issue, he is right 100%. And I think that if Steve Solars would like to run for the United States Senate 2 years hence,
right,
the best favor he could do his candidacy would be the best favor he could do this country, and that is to rally as many Democrats as he can to a unified position. That's what we need, unity.
Right.
And thank God nobody pays any attention to a moron like Ramsay Clark, who is absolutely moronic, who is a sick skunk. He goes over there and he says, we're violating international law, never once discussing the invasion of Kuwait as violating international law. Right. How curious that this moron keeps his record straight. Never once, ladies and gentlemen, has he supported the United States of America in any endeavor.
That's right.
Ever increasingly, I feel vindicated because I had the courage, the chutzpah, to say that the Martin King was a fake, a phony, a fraud. And at the time I said it, you would have thought I said, screw God. I mean, people went, oh, shoot me, my heavens, what is this guy saying? The world will stop in its axis. It will no longer spin around the sun. Winter will become summer, summer will become winter, day will be night, night will be day. And lo and behold, it turns out that the guy, among other things, was a plagiarist. And the professor who is responsible for the study and who came up with the pronouncement feels awful about it, just feels terrible about it. Well, I might not be talking about it except that Arizona's governor is weighing a possible special legislative session to adopt a holiday for King. But I love to quote wire service reports and newspaper accounts that always say, the slain civil rights leader. A spokesman for Governor Rose Moffett, she's the one that looks like she might have been George Washington's mother. The spokesman says she believes some departing members of the legislature may now be willing to support the holiday because they won't have to face angry voters. The idea, now get a load of this, now follow this. This is supposed to be a government of, by, and for the people. We believe in democracy. My foot. Majority rule. My foot. Oh, in South Africa you believe in majority rule, but not here. The Constitution of the United States. My foot. Article 9 of the Bill of Rights. The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. Amendment 10, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, not prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states, respectively, or to the people. That's from the United States Constitution, my dear fellow Americans. So the state of Arizona, the sovereign state of Arizona, I'm not talking about a bunch of sleazeball politicians, I'm talking about the people, voted that they did not want to trade Columbus Day for Martin King Day, that they wanted to keep the calendar as it was. And now they want to go over the heads of the people. And here Rose Moffett, that's the one that looks like George Washington's mother, Rose Moffett says she believes some departing members, that means they're lame ducks. That means they could do what they want without fear of retribution from the people. Vox populi, my foot. And so she wants to call a special session. But the idea isn't going over too well with good Americans who believe as I do. One group called the No Committee is threatening recall campaigns against any lawmaker who votes against giving the public the final say on having the holiday. And I thought that's what this was about, that the public is supposed to have the final say. Forget about whether you think the guy was Ozan instead of the Gurnud that he was. Forget about that. Let's assume that he was peachy keen. Let's assume that you'd have a hard time choosing between him and apple pie. The fact still remains the people of the sovereign state of Arizona voted a certain way, and they're trying to overturn the vote of the people. Doesn't that bother anybody? I should think even someone who may have different opinions of King might might be concerned with what I'm talking about. As you may recall, a week ago, the Arizona voters turned down 2 proposals to establish a king holiday. And, of course, Paul Tagliabue, who is nothing more than a little worm, they call him the commissioner of the NFL. He ought to call the head of the National Football Players League. He ought to call Gene Upshaw every day and say, Gene, what'll I do, sir? Anyway, they're going to take away the 1993 Super Bowl away from Phoenix. Notre Dame and Virginia have turned down invitations to the Fiesta Bowl in Tempe. And the 4 teams who have accepted bids say they're going to play with armbands. Isn't that nice? All those phony hypocrites. I want to talk about the railroading of Gary Spath. They try to railroad Gary Spath in the worst way. The fellow who looks like he's a refugee from the Vincent Price movie, The House of Wax. Who am I talking about? Flim-Flam Florio. It dawned on me. Flim-Flam Florio belongs in Madame Tussauds Wax Museum. That's what he looks like, that fake. But anyway, Florio, copying his idol, Il Supremo, told his Attorney General, Del Tufo, whatever you do, nail Spath. Nail him. But thanks to some decent, brave New Jerseyans, some honest folk impaneled on the grand jury, they've blown the whistle on this attempt to lynch Gary Spath. You know, I've been trying to tell you for a long, long time. Many of you people have convictions, and they are good convictions. But you need more than convictions. You need that other word that begins with a C. You need courage. Let me tell you this. For this brief period that we have on this sphere, we know we can't win every battle. We know we may lose. Maybe many battles. But please, make a promise to yourself. Promise yourself that you will never lose by default. Promise yourself that you will never lose because you didn't show up for the game. Promise yourself that you will never lose because you didn't try. And if you can do that, if you can say, yeah, I may have lost, but at least I tried. I may have been defeated, but at least I went down fighting. Then in my book, you're a success. And the outcome of the game, the final score, really hasn't been tabulated. A fake and a phony and a fraud. You're no English teacher. Don't do this no more. A double negative. Why'd you tell me you were an English professor?
Bob, I'm joking.
Yeah, you're out, pal. You're out. It makes the whole... No point in listening to the rest of the guy's story. Here's a guy who says, I'm an English professor. He names a non-existent college, by the way. And then he says... Then he trips himself up. I was waiting for him to trip himself up. And he uses a double negative. It's okay for Henry Vitiello, guys like that, to use a double negative. But a guy who claims he's an English professor using a double negative, I told him, don't do that no more. Ha!
I think Paul Tagliabue getting involved in something so stupid is ridiculous. And I think what Paul Tagliabue is actually doing is he's hiding the fact that you tell lies about WLIB.
Ha ha ha! Dear.
The debate is over
Steve. That's beautiful, Steve. I hope you get well someday. I really do. What a AAA sickola.
Country is being run at this time. We're not going to do it, though.
All right. Okay, we're not going to do it, so therefore we're right back to square one. What is the scenario then?
That's my question to you.
Okay. In other words, you instead of using your crystal ball, you want me to use mine.
It's not so much a crystal ball, it's just my...
Well, what is it? What is it when you're predicting? What is it? What would you call it? You quibble over words, for heaven's sake. How can anybody get a thought process concluded when you want to quibble over words? You didn't like the word attack. I said, okay, invade. You said, yeah, we'll invade. I don't understand you.
Basically, what I'm trying to say is that we're going to have to go in there and fight for what we believe in, and to free the people.
This guy doesn't really know what he's talking about. Free what? Free what people?
The people that are trapped in Kuwait.
Oh, you mean our hostages?
Well, I fear for them because I think...
You mean this guy? Oh, boy.
I feel that if we do...
Not on, is this guy making me nervous? You feel what?
No, if we do go in, you know right off what's going to happen to those poor people.
What's going to happen?
They're dead. It's plain and
you
simple.
really think so? You think he should?
I think he's that crazy that he's... Yes,
yeah, listen, have a happy Thanksgiving. Don't eat too much stuffing, will you, pal? You got enough. Thank you. I really should get out of here. I mean, you know, at my stage of my career, haven't I suffered enough? I mean, isn't there somewhere where it says, if you've suffered enough, you don't have to do this anymore? What is this? Condemned murderers don't have to do this program as long as November 1963, I've been doing this. What did I do wrong? Is this karma for a past life? Did I have a... That's it. I got to talk to Shirley MacLaine and find out what I did in a past life.
I think the LaRouche people are right. See, the ADL is promoting the British war plan. That's why they're keeping secret about it. They want to...
Are you a follower of Lyndon LaRouche?
Don't you think LaRouche is right about
that? No. Answer my question. Are you a...
The British want to get control of the oil and the are working along with them to do it. They want us to control the oil and cut off oil to Western Europe.
Mike, I'm trying to get your attention. Are you a follower of Lyndon LaRouche?
Just a follower of the truth, Bob. The truth hurts.
The guy doesn't want to answer the question.
The British are...
Mike, do you want to answer the question? One more time. One more time. One more time, Mike. Are you a follower of Lyndon LaRouche?
I'm the follower of the truth.
Are you a follower of Lyndon LaRouche?
You know, the British...
are you a follower of Lyndon? Hey, you know what you are, Mike? Let me tell you, you're a fake, you're a phony, you're a sick jerk creep, and you're off my phone, you louse. Guy didn't want to answer. See, he was ashamed because Lyndon LaRouche is in jail for good reason, because Lyndon LaRouche turned out to be a crook. And he's in jail. He's in the prison down in Virginia. This guy didn't want to admit that his hero is a crook, so he wouldn't admit that he was a follower of Lyndon LaRouche. Dan.
In Saudi Arabia?
That's right.
That's what I got.
Yeah, where'd you get that?
From the library.
From the what library? You mean you walked in the library and it said Saudi Arabia has a population of 12,000 people?
No, 12 million.
I mean 12 million people?
Over 12 million people.
Really? Over 12 million people? I think you're wrong.
That's what I got a reference.
Well, I don't believe you. You didn't get it from the library.
I did get it from the library.
You did not. What book in the library, pal?
Reference department of the library.
What book, pal?
The reference. And you know what they have military force in it?
What book did you get it from, pal?
Just relax. The military force is 65,000 in Saudi Arabia. Is that figure correct?
Do you still want to maintain that they have over 12 million people?
Well, what is your figure?
They have about, they don't even have 7 million people. But all right, for 5 million, I'm not going to argue with you. Yep.
All right, 65,000 military force, right? Is that correct?
That figure happens to be correct, yes.
All right, I'm right on something. What do you know? I don't know, but if they had a military force, it wouldn't be there in the first place.
Well, and you want to know something? If you didn't call, we wouldn't be talking. Get off my phone, you jerk. Vito, hello.
Mr. Grant?
Yes, Vito.
As you know, I get some information and I report back to you so the world could find out what's going on. And I am pleased to tell you that I spoke to Saddam Hussein last night.
You did?
Well, I hope nobody's listening. I just want to tell you this. I know we're off the air, and I want to tell you this personally.
All right, take us off the air, folks. Play organ music. Get that record there of Phil Ambrose and his orchestra. Put that on.
Watch it.
Okay.
Anyway.
All right, Vito. We're talking privately now. Go ahead.
Thank God. We're off the air, right?
Yeah, just you and me, Vito.
Okay. Now, Mr. Grant, what I'm about to tell you will shock you. Saddam Hussein, I spoke to him and I was going to make him an offer he can't refuse. And he humbly gave himself to me and he says to me, I fear nothing. I fear no ships. I fear no nuclear weapons. I fear no United States. Or for that matter, the whole world. And I says to him, Mr. Hussein, no man is an island when it comes to fear. There must be something that shocks you. There must be something that you fear. Well, what do you think the answer was?
I can't wait to hear the answer, Vito.
Your name was mentioned 274 times in 11.3 seconds.
274 times in 11.3
I couldn't believe it. He said the name Bob Grant will get me out of Kuwait by Wednesday. He says, do anything, but don't send that man here. I fear him. This is the answer I want to give you. And I wanted to tell you this off the air so your people will not fear you. Your audience will not fear you.
All right, you can put us back on now. You can take off the Phil Ambrose record. Okay. They were playing the Godfather theme by Phil Ambrose and his great orchestra.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And if you ever need assistance from me, you could reach me after 6 p.m. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, well, Vito, you must have a day job. That's all I can say.
Well, I have to work for a living, unfortunately.
I see, Vito.
We're all not as fortunate as you are. We don't have the intellect or the genius God has bestowed upon you.
Vito, I'm looking forward to meeting you someday, face to face, to see if you look just like you did in the movie.
Goes without saying.
Thank you, Vito.
Ciao.
On WABC, over 11 million. This guy said it was 12 million. We were quibbling by I'd say we were arguing about 500,000 people. My guess is it's 11.5 million.
Well, I've got the 1990 edition of the Statistical Abstract of the United States in front of me, and it lists the 1989 population as 16 million.
16 million?
109,000.
16 million?
Yes.
I reject that.
Well,
I reject that because the World Chronicle, which was published in 1990 and edited by Cliff Daniel, said 11.5 million.
Well, this is the U.S. Department of Commerce, Bureau of the Census, so that's where...
Well, all right, so you cite your reference, I cite my reference. What happened,
say it.
Doubletalk?
You can't say it out there because who knows who's
Double-talk.
watching or listening to this goddamn telephone.
Watch your language, pal, will you?
But this is the only answer.
Watch your language, will you?
The only answer is the law-abiding people have got to protect themselves.
Okay, so you got 50,000 people walking around carrying guns, right? Is that what you say? Is that what you say? Okay, what about those of us... Wait a minute, what about those of us who don't carry the guns?
You are dead, then you...
Get off my phone, you nitwit. What a pinhead, huh?
Mr. Grant, I would like to know your opinion of General Colin Powell.
My opinion? I've expressed it many times. I think he's great.
Okay, thank you very much.
Why?
I was just curious.
Why were you curious?
Because I never hear you speak of any black person in a positive way.
Get off my phone, you jerk. I knew that was the reason. Tony, you're on...
I'd like to agree with that last caller from Newark who called and said the guy from Smash should draft himself in the Army. I agree with...
There is no draft. Get off my phone, you little pipsqueak. What a bunch of meatheads checking in all of a sudden. What did they blow a bugle for meatheads to check in all at once? Irv.
I'm really outraged at Muhammad Ali going to Iraq and getting hostages out. He's a private citizen. He has no business being there. He's just a punch-drunk ex-fighter.
Oh, wait a minute. I don't want you saying anything bad about Muhammad Ali. You know why?
Why?
Because he won't say anything bad about America. Some black racist skunk was interviewing him one time and tried to get Muhammad Ali to knock this country, and he said, I'm not going to knock this country. It's the greatest country in the world. So I won't let you knock him.
All right, why did he war? But when you...
Hey, look, pal, if he can go over there, if he's got enough prestige that he can go and get 14 of my fellow citizens out of captivity, I'm all for him. And remember, he's never knocked this country on the world stage. He's not like Jesse Jerkson.
Well, there's another guy.
Don't put Jackson in the same category with Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali's a good American.
We finally see past the tough exterior. A compassionate, caring man. Congratulations, Bob.
Oh, it's Eddie.
Eddie Carbone.
Eddie Carbone. They're going to name.
But Carbone.
They're going to name. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, they are going to name the Casino Boulevard entrance to Booth Memorial Hospital.
It's on Main Street. And they have a dialysis satellite.
Is that where the dialysis? Well, they're going to name the dialysis division the Eddie Carbone Memorial Unit.
Well, the dialysis
but you
satellite...
what's that?
The dialysis satellite is already named after Trudy Weishaupt, who apparently was a very wonderful woman, and her husband is a builder and a philanthropist. But unfortunately, Trudy, if only you knew what goes on in the dialysis facility named after you. But anyway, how I got on in regards to prisoners being paid when a bed is not available. I think that convicted criminals should pay their victims or their victims' relatives. That includes all criminals. What is the difference between a drug addict mugger who commits armed robbery and a drug-impaired physician who performs fraudulent, unnecessary surgery? Every year, tens of thousands of Americans die needlessly in our hospitals nationwide due to negligence alone. Negligence alone.
Eddie,
I'm getting better.
You're getting better. You are.
You're helping me out, Bob. I'm going to become a great announcer with your help. I'll keep calling you.
Eddie, why don't you call John Manelli? Tell him you want to do a
show?
A show. Tell him you want to do a show on medical fraud.
Oh, of course. Because, you know, many of our elderly citizens, there was a new study released just yesterday, are tied needlessly to their beds and overdrugged and underfed.
What do you think of the guy who was just on ahead of you? He's hooked on Valium. How did that happen, Eddie?
Well, it's a shame some people become dependent on that. You should try to tough it out, you know, and what have you. And I think you should try to get high on life.
That's it, Eddie.
Yeah.
All right, listen, Eddie.
Yes.
I want to congratulate you on being a triumph of the human spirit over adversity.
Oh, thank you, Bob.
Okay, Eddie.
Have a good day.
As a guy who's been undergoing dialysis for years and years, and has quite a spirit and a good sense of humor. He used to get on my nerves. But I've come to like Eddie. I've come to have a fondness for him. Let's get back to our phones.
I mean it.
Yeah, but that's the way the game is played.
Oh, that's right.
That's the way the game is played.
That just
Except we got a guy leading us who isn't quite sure how he wants to play it.
You know, he scares me. You know, that individual, Mr. Bush, you know what I mean?
I'm getting very disappointed in him. I really don't understand. I really don't understand where he's coming from when it comes to Iraq. I don't like double talk. I can't stand double talk. And he says we're not negotiating, but we'll meet with them. Well, then, if you're not negotiating, why even bother meeting?
Well, he was doing that, I believe, for public opinion.
Thank you for the call on WABC. I find it difficult to listen to Ron much longer. I mean, the voice. They say cheap whiskey will do that.
Quick solution here to resolve the whole Gulf crisis.
Can you hear John? I can't hear you.
I got a quick solution to solve the whole Gulf crisis.
Good.
We don't got to send Baker over there. Anybody. All we have to send over there is a swimmer, Ted Kennedy, to have him go to Baghdad and fight Saddam Hussein for a ride in his car.
Very good, except Saddam Hussein is a guy, and Teddy Kennedy would only want to take a defensive girl, a defenseless girl. That skunk. Thank you very much.
To use a hypothetical scenario, could you imagine if an individual on today, December 7th, in 1941, would somehow be transported 49 years to the future and land in the middle of what was once the great White Way, Broadway, and he would look about him in 1990 and seeing the signs there would see Mitsubishi Company and say, my God, that's the company that built the bombers that stabbed America in the back on Pearl Harbor Day. He'd see names like Toshiba. He'd see all Japanese companies. He'd say, they won the war. And if someone turned and said to him, no, they didn't. We defeated them. The truth is we defeated them militarily and defeated ourselves economically. We allowed the Japanese and business and Japanese government to work hand in hand to achieve all of their goals that they sought that day 49 years ago. They've achieved what they wanted in the Southeast Asian coal prosperity sphere. America, in a sense, has become an economic colony of Japan, exporting American raw materials to be made into Japanese goods to which America must buy back. And any time we criticize the Japanese, it's called Japanese bashing. Bob Grant, the reason why Pearl Harbor Day, and this is what I fear, is that it will just become another day. And why isn't this a national holiday instead of Martin King Day? Why isn't this day commemorated to teach the American people about the price of liberty is vigilance? The reason is because the left in this country, the sick intellectual leftists, cannot take the fact that in their belief that America is imperialist, racist, exploitive, and victimizing, that on this day America was the victim. They cannot take the fact that this country was attacked for no reason. Yep. And so they twist it around to tell the world about the bombing of Hiroshima. You know, Noah Deer is always talking about the 6 million. Well, Noah Deer better remember that there were 30 million Chinese that were butchered by the Japanese in World War II. And it was Mao Zedong who said that if he had 100 atom bombs, he would have used every one of them. And never forget what was done to the American boys at Bataan in the Philippines. Was that called racist? Or what was done to those British Tommies in Singapore? Read books like The Tiger of Malaya about the trial of Japanese General Yamashita, or the Knights of Bushido, and you read the atrocities the Japanese committed, you'll find out that those so-called colonialist peoples of Asia welcomed the European powers to get the Japanese off their back. Bob, as long as we've got you as a forum, my friend, those boys that died at Pearl Harbor, their spirits and memories will live on. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Vintage Frank, right on target. Beautiful. Harry, this is Bob Grant. You're on W. All right, we got it.
Yeah, for Floyd Flake, by the way, the perfect example of money being diverted.
There you go, Floyd Flake. There's a good example of why I don't trust guys that call themselves reverend.
Currently under indictment, like most of the Democrat Party in this town.
That's right. As a matter of fact, if we had... Too bad there's no Republican Party left in New York. They could really have a field day with all these crooks in the Democratic Party.
Right.
By the way, speaking of Democrats, the Democrat Party in New York becomes more corrupt all the time, more of a joke all the time. But there's nothing to laugh at because there's no Republican Party to fill the gap. Because the Republicans have lost their nerve. They're so intimidated by El Supremo, they didn't put up a decent candidate and had to have as their standard bearer a fop. Let's get back to our telephones. Mark.
And it's just funny because now you have Mel Miller, who's the number 2 man, who has now been indicted and will most likely ultimately be found guilty of something. I guess the K is at the gills in this state and heading upwards.
Well, Mel Miller's indicted. He is the leading Democrat in the House, in the Assembly. And Manfred Orenstein has been indicted on 109 felony counts.
Right, so you figure 50 of them will stick.
He's the leader in the Senate. Both Democrats, both proving how corrupt the Democrat Party is. And yet Il Supremo goes along with his arrogance in full blow, in full tilt.
Well, Bob, I saw Cuomo the other day on TV, and yes? You better take him down to get the hairpiece. His hair's looking bad.
All right, that's really Jerry who uses the name Frank because, well, he got 2 heads, so each head has to have a name. Vito.
Mr. Grant.
Yes, Vito.
How are you feeling?
Well, Vito, I never answer that question except when someone of your great stature asks.
Goes without saying.
And Vito, quite frankly, just the sound of your voice and the vibrations that do emanate through the telephone lines inspire me.
Very impressive. The reason why I called is you know I'm very close with Frank Sinatra. Many people may not realize that. And he called me last night, and he wants you to attend the dinner, which is is going to be given to him at the Meadowland. And I made arrangements for a limousine to pick you up to be with Frank. He admires you, and he thinks you're one of the greatest talk show hosts that ever lived, let alone in the country. What do you think of that?
It doesn't make a difference to me what a man does for a living, but this fella's from Hoboken is all right, but this impersonation of another eminence, this is a dangerous business for you.
The question...
I don't like that, because I take that as an insult, and disrespect, which, as you know, is omerta.
Oh, wait a minute. Both you guys have mutual respect, don't you?
Well, first of all, let me speak. That man...
This individual that speaks to you...
Well, let's let Vito speak,
He's
will
a
you?
castrati.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Yes.
We got two Vitos.
Non mi piaggio.
We got Vito on the line. Vito, I know this is a shock to you, Vito, but as you were talking, another Vito came roaming into the studio.
Is an imposter.
An imposter, probably.
Can I speak to you in Italian?
You going to speak to the imposter in Italian?
To you.
Oh, to me. Okay, go ahead.
Questa cosa ragazza chiamata J. Dime. Che sto coso spostato,
Yes, proprio spostato sai.
Now, first of all...
Sai abbazza pure.
Goes without saying.
Yeah.
He's a good person, but once in a while he goes off to Venus.
Yeah.
First of all, I want to get back to the Sinatra business. Then Jay Diamond could do his routine if he wants.
All right, this is very important.
You know what bothers me about this guy, Bob?
What's
I'll tell you what bothers me about him.
What bothers
You know, there's something ersatz about this guy. He talks in that voice, he puts on an impression, he does a shtick, but it seems to me he has another persona. He has a persona of, you don't, yeah, all right. I know who we're talking.
That other persona I don't want to hear.
Yeah, I know.
I like this persona.
Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead, Vito.
All right, Arnold's very close to me. Gotta watch that. Anyway, wise guy.
But on February 16th, though, at the Holiday Inn North, you're going to really be doing all your shticks, Phil.
Yeah, for ghosts.
That's right.
Yes. Anyway, the bottom line is, Sinatra thinks you're the greatest, and he wants you to be his personal guest. And this is the message that I am relaying to you.
Cheech wants me to be his personal guest?
That's right.
Oh, boy.
Mr. Gotti unfortunately can't make it. He's all tied up.
He's all tied up. Hey, Vito, I wish we could go on. I love this, but I'm getting waves from Broadway Roy.
One question that I would like to ask
you. Want to ask
please?
Vito?
Vito,
you don't resent the fact that Vito does such a good Vito.
No. You're a little light in the loafers, but he's a nice guy. And let me ask you a question, Vito. Or let me say it to you the way Senator Geary said it to Michael in the movie. Vito Corleone. Remember Vito?
Very good.
All right, listen to me. Is it true that on the wedding day of a man's daughter, you can ask the man for any favor?
Goes without saying if you're Sicilian, mind you.
Oh, all right. I just want I want to know that.
You can't be a Monterano.
The time to get to a guy is on the day of his daughter's wedding. All right.
Yeah, but he said Sicilians. I'm not Sicilian, pal.
All right.
Hey?
Anyway, Bob Quinn, I know you're very busy and you got to go. And wife Frederick is going to have a baby. The bottom line is...
That's right, Roy is.
You're the greatest, and no man, not even the great Jay Diamond, can't even talk anymore. Not even the Jay Diamond, who is a genius in his own right, could fill the shoes of the master.
Well, Jay knows that.
But I can shine his shoes.
Jay knows his place, and that's why I allow him to stick around.
I have to go to limos here. Frank is outside.
Okay.
See you later, kid.
Thank you,
Be
Vito.
a good boy.
Okay, about the boy. Okay, on WABC.
Rick, I like to talk about how come you don't got a no hairpiece.
And there's the same guy with the obsession. Really pathetic. Laurie, you know that, but you're just trying to make a political statement by asking this rhetorical question.
Well, an 8-year-old boy being beaten to death by his own mother is a pretty heinous crime, wouldn't you say?
It certainly is, and I think anybody who does that should get the death penalty. Unfortunately, we don't have the death penalty.
Where was Mr. Hyken? How come he wasn't
I'll ask him. The next time I see him, I'll ask him.
Good, you dumbbell.
I'm a dumbbell?
Yeah.
Why do you listen to a dumbbell, then?
Because I want to get to your audience. You're not the only person in this world,
you see, you notice you said your audience. You're right.
You're a jerk.
You're
Get
right.
off the phone, you
You're right.
dumbo.
It's my audience. He hung up. He's right. It's my audience. It's not his. He's never had an audience unless he calls the Bob Grant Show. Imagine how demeaning that must be to him to know the only way he can be heard is to call a guy he hates. He must be burning a big hole in the lining of his stomach. I'm here talking to him. One of us is getting paid for it, and it's not him. You know what I think is happening, Laura? I think you've been drinking. And I think you forget that you called last week.
No.
With the same, you began the same way.
No.
Well, then there's somebody else imitating you, Laura, or maybe you're imitating her.
Porter, you're the worst. No, I haven't called you in 18 years.
It's been a great 18 years, Laura, believe me. But the other Laura's called from Little Neck, too.
Really?
I'll tell you, here's what's happened. I don't think you have Alzheimer's. I think what you do is dance on the grape a little too much. Here, let me...
No.
No, really? I'm going to make you salivate now. I'm going to make you salivate. Are you there, Laura?
I don't believe this, Bob. What are you talking about? Bob, somebody called up and sang Cole Porter's song. Somebody called you a scathing sonnet. Bob, did somebody call you up last week? Listen, that amuses me. It's made me laugh. Bob, somebody called up with the scathing sonnet by Cole Porter. You're the worst. I can't remember the words. I'm asking you. I don't believe it. Bob, you talk to me.
Talk to you?
You say somebody called you up
What would you
last
like me to say to you, Laura? What would you like me to say?
But I think you have the wrong person.
No, it was somebody that sounded just
and
as...
somebody
almost as brain damaged as you, really.
I think you're mistaken.
Yeah, mistaken. Do you like olives, or do you have onions in your martini? Or do you drink your gin or vodka straight? Tell me.
I would never touch alcohol.
Oh, really? You get that way without it. You're lucky.
That's right.
You're lucky.
I remember right now.
Well, listen, we'll have to talk about it some night. We'll come over for tea. We'll have tea and talk about it, okay? Thank you very much, Laura. Hope you get better. With that, she hung up very abruptly in my ear. I wonder why. Until Monday, this is Bob Grant reminding you your influence counts. Use it and...
I hate people. I hate people. I detest them. I deplore them.
30 years ago, had Michael Williams been in such a position, or any person in such a position, decreed that no longer will there be race-based scholarships at colleges, as my colleague Tom Sowell says, the NAACP would have applauded the fellow 30 years ago. Now that, because it would have meant real equal opportunity. Now, what we have to note today is that today, equal opportunity does not mean equal opportunity. That is what a lot of civil rights people are arguing is for racial spoil system. And I think that it's both divisive and it doesn't help blacks with their problems. For example, what I mean by that is that the reason why there's a relatively low numbers of blacks on college campuses has nothing to do with colleges engaging in racial discrimination, and it has very, very little to do with the financial means to go to college. It has a whole lot to do, much, much more to do, with the grossly fraudulent education being delivered by the public school system, where they are graduating kids, and they're not doing that well with white kids, but for black kids, they're giving kids a 12th grade diploma that certifies that they've achieved the 12th grade level, when in fact, very often, many cannot read and write and compute at the 8th and 9th grade level.
Why do they do this in the secondary schools?
Well, Your answer is as good as mine. But there's no accountability at all. For example, teachers and administrators, they get paid and they get their raises whether kids can read or write or not. And very often the kids get their diplomas whether they can read and write or not. And one of the tragedies in the public school system is that the people who are members of the public school establishment, they know that their product is rotten. And some examples of this, if you go to Chicago, and I don't know if the case is in New York, but if you look at Chicago, 46% of white teachers have their kids in private schools, and 53% of black teachers have their kids in private schools. Now, that ought to tell you something about the public schools. I mean, it's like I say, hey, Bob, I'm going to take you to dinner tonight, and you find out that the restaurant that I'm taking you to, the chef doesn't eat there, the waiter doesn't, the busboys, and the rats and roaches don't eat there.
Whoa. Well, you make your point, but what do you think the administration is going to do? I'm going to put you on the spot here. You're entitled to a prognostication, same as anybody else.
Well, what I think the administration is going to do is not going to have any backbone to support Michael Williams. That is, the administration is going to count votes, and they're going to ask, does Michael Williams bring in more black votes, or will it bring in fewer black votes? Or, in other words, with the administration, it's not going to be a matter of principle, it's going to be a matter of political expediency. But I think that the good thing about Michael Williams, whether he succeeds or whether the administration overrules him or fires him or something like this, is that he is resurrecting the question of whether we want to have a society that believes in the principles of equality of opportunity, or whether we want to have a society with a racial spoil system.
You mentioned an ideological brethren of yours, the great Thomas Sowell. I'd like to also talk about Shelby Steele, who, as you well know, is a scholar whose criticism of affirmative action has received wide attention in the past year. Mm-hmm. Now, he says, and ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who don't know, Shelby Steele is also black. He says racial preferences diminish the achievements of blacks whose gains are tainted by the appearance of favoritism, end of quote. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, I would agree with it. And it does some dangerous things. For example, when a law student graduates from a law school, and if he has written an article in the law school's journal, well, that is a very, very good stepping stone when he goes out and gets a job. But however, schools like Harvard University and University of Virginia, and I would imagine many others, they have established racial and sexual quotas for their law journals. Huh. Now, when a black comes out to a law firm and says, well, look, I have an article in the law journal, well, it is discounted immediately because the market knows. So what it does, it makes, in addition to what you've said, it cheapens and it debases legitimate achievements won by blacks. And it creates, blacks have earned most of what we have in our country. But the affirmative action and quotas creates the image to the rest of society that we've received the gift.
Professor Walter Williams, we've had similar interviews along these lines over the years, and yet there doesn't seem to be much progress being made. Can you see how we can make a breakthrough so that we can put this type of thing behind us?
Well, I think I would differ with you with respect to progress being made. I think that there's more progress than meets the eye. I get around the country and I talk to many, many black Americans who are increasingly beginning to question what the so-called black leaders say is in our interest. And so you find much of this questioning occurring among young blacks who don't have the long-standing commitments of the civil rights organizations to various groups in our society, and in increasing numbers, they are questioning many things that are being done in their name. And well, see, there's the evidence. For years and years, people have been saying, well, the only way blacks can achieve socioeconomic progress is to have political power. Well, enough time has occurred to be able to test that proposition. And indeed, if you look around our country and you look for the worst, the most horrible living conditions for blacks, very often they happen to be in the very cities where a black is the mayor, a black is the chief of police, and a black is the superintendent of schools. Now, I'm not saying that blacks shouldn't have these positions, but I'm thinking that more and more blacks are coming to recognize is that people who make this argument that you need political power are using unfortunate blacks as poor blacks as stalking horses to conceal their own hidden political agendas.
Voice to be heard on their radio station. Has WLIB ever interviewed you, Professor Williams?
No, they haven't.
Okay, I didn't think they had.
I don't know this station at all.
Well, it's a station that bills itself as America's first black superstation, and it is owned by a close confidant, longtime ally of the mayor of this city, and they certainly have an agenda. They are very outspoken. They articulate a very militant point of view, and any day that you tune in, you could hear Sonny Carson or Al Sharpton on that radio station, and I just wondered whether they had ever heard of someone with your moderate viewpoints.
Well, look, Bob, truth and questions are dangerous things to have around when you're on a particular political agenda.
Okay. Thank you. Always good talking to you, Professor.
Okay, thank you, Bob.
Walter E. Williams, Professor of Economics at George Mason University.
Uncle Elmer, all crust
you never
on.
Had an uncle. Did you ever hear of a Jewish guy having an Uncle Elmer? Come on, cut it out. Cut it out. No Jewish guy ever had an Uncle Elmer.
If I had 5,000 Bob Grants and Bruce Andersons surrounding me.
Don't lump Anderson with me. I thought I meant something here. This guy's just a newsman. Got this job by default.
Spirit carrier. I feel about as welcome.
He's okay. I like him.
You know, I'm beginning to feel about as welcome as a fly on a currant bun.
Yeah, he used that one about 17,000 times.
But Bob Grant is looking at me like a possum eyeballing a June bug.
Oh, my gosh.
I feel like a Hungarian at a Romanian picnic.
No, the one that he used over and over again was he couldn't ad-lib a belch at a Bulgarian buffet.
I think he got that. He got that from Fred Allen.
Let me hear you do the Bulgarian buffet line. Let me hear.
All right.
You know, I was down at a meeting of Wordsmiths Anonymous, but I made the valedictory address. But when Hugo Matsitutequand, is that his name, Bob? Hugo Matsitutequand tried ever so hard for the delectation of the audience to make an after-dinner speech. He couldn't do it. He couldn't ad-lib a burp after a Bulgarian buffet.
Yeah, that's it. All right.
That's it, yeah.
You know what? I'm beginning to get on my own nerves.
Yeah.
Despise myself when I do that.
You know, Jay, I'll tell you something.
Yes, Bob.
I'll tell you something. Yesterday, I had the misfortune to tune in C-SPAN and see a presentation at the National Press Club down in Washington, D.C. And do you know who the ham bone was kvelling? He's the only guy, he and Ron Brown kvel and talk at the same time, Il Supremo himself. And I thought, oh my, wait a minute. If I go into the studio this morning and do the show with Jay, I might run into Il Supremo, and I don't think I could stand.
I didn't want to tell you because he told me that he might be coming up very shortly.
Oh, no.
And while you were outside a second ago, Tony told me they see him coming up now. He's downstairs. He should be up here in about 4 minutes, right after Joe Nolan gives us the traffic.
I'd like to get out of here, really.
No, stay. I'll tell you, he did seem bold today. He didn't seem his usual sheep.
Yeah.
Don't get nervous.
I don't get nervous.
You to be nice. The guy is coming up now. Wait a minute. Here he comes. Where is he? Where is he? I'm not afraid. I've been traveling long enough. I've taken an assertiveness training course. Matilda told me she wanted a man, not a spineless jellyfish. And by God, I'm going to stand up to you. I'm going to stand up to Bob.
Please, don't stand up. Sit down at the microphone there.
Yes, sir.
That's better.
Bob, it's been too long. It's been too long. You've been disgruntled. It's been too long that I've had to be sheepish to speak with you, to contend with you, to remonstrate with you. It's been too long that I've had to search for adjectives to parley with you. Let me just stick to what I do best, which is governance.
Governance. Let me say something to you, Mario. Many years ago, when we used to be gumbars, when we were buddies...
We carried the Giglio together down Mulberry Street.
Yeah, we did a lot of things together, and I'm glad Matilda doesn't know about most of them, because...
Remember, Bob?
Yeah,
we loved each other then.
That was...
What did I do? What did I do?
You know what you did?
What did I do?
I'll tell you what you did. You abandoned what I thought were your principles, and you became a bleeding heart, feckless, left-wing liberal.
But, Bob, I was always that way. Don't you remember what I did in Forest Hills? I think that was before you came to New York.
No,
Maybe you didn't know.
I remember Forest Hills. I
got that housing
I remember
project.
that fighting.
Nobody else. I did it.
Well, you know, you did it because there was no other way to do it.
That got me on Hugh Carey's ticket. I made my bones with that.
Made your bones? What are you, in the mob now? I mean, you know, every now and then you make certain slips, Il Supremo, certain slips. Now,
I'm D&D, Bob. I'm D&D.
What's D&D?
Deaf and dumb.
Deaf and dumb. All right, let's get a few things straight.
I don't mean to insult the deaf community. I like the deaf community. But unfortunately, I'm on radio. I can say nobody can argue with me.
Well, that's true. They can't hear you. They can't even read your lips because they can't see this. I saw you on C-SPAN trying to seduce the National Press Corps. You were trying to explain, you were talking, as usual, out of both sides of your mouth about the Persian Gulf situation. Now, I want to put it right to you. What would you do if you, heaven forbid, were the President of the United States?
Bob, there would be no Persian Gulf problem if I were president, because I would have followed the course of action that I followed so steadfastly for the past 8 years as governor of New York.
Wait a minute,
I would follow my articulated, clearly enunciated policy of surrender in advance.
You would
therefore making all conflict unnecessary.
In other words, Saddam Hussein, on August 2nd, marched into Kuwait, you would say...
On August 3rd, I would have said, on August 1st, our intelligence, I would have beefed up the United States intelligence to apprise me so that I'd always be aware of situations where we could imminently surrender. And I would have said on August 1st, in case you want to invade your neighboring country tomorrow and dominate the world's oil supplies, I want you to know before you do that, we surrender.
You know, if it were just about anybody else, with the exception of Joe Biden, Chris Dodd, Ted Kennedy, Howard Metzenbaum, Alan Cranston, Paul Simon, Michael Dukakis, Albert Gore, and Richard Gephardt, and the rest of those scumbag Democrats, if it were anybody else, I wouldn't believe them. But you, I believe.
Don't forget, you can add Sam Nunn to that list now.
Yeah,
even he's coming around to the way I think.
He's slipped too. He's come.
Sure, I'm a persuasive man.
Yeah.
When I talk, people listen.
Okay,
I'm not going to be afraid of you anymore.
So you would have.
I paid $500 for that assertiveness training course, and that's not money wasted.
All right, tell us about the assertive training course. You seem determined to do so anyway, so I'll ask you.
No, I just want to tell you that I'm determined to assert myself as far as you're concerned, because my wife has pointed out to me that I've been entirely too soft when I come up and speak with you. The other guy, Diamond, I can push around as I see fit. You, I have trouble. The guy's a lightweight. He's a glider.
Okay. What about the...
I beg your pardon? Oh, shut your mouth.
Yes. All right, now what about the big budget gap in Albany? How did you arrange that?
Budget gap. We just had a successful special session of the legislature where I was able to persuade the Republicans in the Senate as well as Mel Miller and his Democrats. Mel's got a few problems now, but I'm sure we're going to work out of those.
How does it make you feel to know that your party, the party of the jackass, has its leading state senator, Manfred Orenstein, under indictment for $109 felonious charges. Mel Miller is now indicted for mail fraud. Both men, if justice were done and they were convicted, would be sent to jail. How does it make you feel?
My policy is consistent with regard to Manfred Orenstein and with regard to Mel Miller. I believe they should, of course, go unpunished, as all criminals have gone unpunished in this state since I've assumed the gubernatorial position. I don't feel differently about Orenstein. Why should I want to incarcerate Orenstein and or the other guy, Mel Miller, the Assembly Speaker, if I don't believe in putting any criminals in jail? It wouldn't be fair, and fairness is the hallmark of the Democratic Party under the leadership of Ron Brown and my master, Jesse Jackson.
Well, now, are you saying that no criminal should be put in jail?
Bob, I would like to stay with you longer today, but I'm planning on the return visit of Nelson Mandela, and I'm working out the last-minute details now, so I haven't got all day. By the way, did you notice he was supposed to come back in October? I invited him back, and he said he was coming, and he hasn't shown up?
Yeah, why didn't he show up in October?
I don't understand that. I remember when he boasted that he was coming back to liberate the American Indians, and I got all excited. And now he's left those poor American Indians in the lurch. Who's going to liberate them if Mandela doesn't come back?
By the way, Il Supremo, have you ever washed your face where Winnie Mandela kissed you?
No, and although I'm sure she washed where I kissed her.
Why do you say that?
Where she had a bigger target.
Oh, I see. All right.
All right, Bob, enough of this isn't germane to what I'm talking about. What I want to do is announce my new anti-crime proposal.
You have an anti-crime proposal?
That's exactly right.
Well, you just said a moment ago you didn't believe in putting criminals in prison. Now you tell us you have an anti-crime proposal.
I don't want to put prisoners in jail. That doesn't prove anything. That doesn't solve anything for society. Bob, most people don't think as metaphysically as I do, but I can't blame them. They don't have my vision. They don't have my ability to see beyond the problem to the solution. Our problem is not in incarcerating criminals. We've been incarcerating criminals for hundreds of years. How have we stopped crime? No. We have more crime. Nobody built as many prisons as I did under my gubernatorial administration. I built 20 prisons in the last 8 years.
Why'd you build
so many prisons? Gone down? Don't you know what prisons do? They encourage people to go. They encourage crime.
Well, then
free food, health clubs, television, MTV, air conditioning in the summer. You can't get that deal outside when you're working for a living. That's why I believe in increasing welfare, so people won't be motivated to commit crimes to go to jail. If we give people money, if we simply tax some people and give that money to people who don't have the money, they won't be inclined to commit crimes in order to get to jail and live for free. We'll let them live for free first. I believe in a foreign policy of surrender in advance, as well as a domestic policy of surrender in advance.
Now, here you talk about giving all these people all these free things and taxing the poor taxpayer. He's already the highest taxed individual in the entire union, and that still includes our neighboring state of New Jersey, where Flim-Flam Florio, your stooge pal, gave that state the biggest tax increase in the history of the United States.
And a good job he did, too. Look at how he did that. Why, he reached into their pockets for $3 billion, and he was out with it before they even noticed it, no matter what Henry Vitiello says.
But
by the way, if you're against Florio, why do you hang around with Henry Vitiello so much?
That's a good question. This is the first time, Il Supremo, that you have me stumped. That's a good question.
Well, I'm an experienced attorney. I went to St. John's Law School.
It probably is because he's a friend.
I know how to question a guy.
No, I think it's because he's a friend of Victor Uzzolino. That's why. And if a guy's a friend of Victor...
Don't you know anybody named Smith, Bob?
Well...
Everybody's Uzzolino, Vitiello.
I know a guy named Cuomo. Now, what do you think of that?
I'm changing my name to Mario Clark.
Clark?
Clark.
Uh-huh.
You see, what I want to do is I want to expand my horizons. I feel in order to get elected president, I can't go with the ethnic vote alone. I've got to expand.
Well, wait a minute. Are you running for president? Is that what you're telling me right now?
I don't have to run for president. I own this burg. I'm going to be president. I'm going to get it by default. Who is there in my party? Name a name. Who, Gephardt? No. The guy, beyond John Deere, Gephardt has no constituency.
All right, what about...
The guy looks good in a John Deere cap. That's about the size of it.
Okay, you mentioned Sam Nunn. What about him?
Sam Nunn. Nothing more need be said. Sam Nunn is not a factor. He's already complicated his life by assuming a dovish stance. His only hope was to go opposite me. He can't pull the votes I can in this part of the country.
Okay, you say that there's nobody who can take the nomination away from you if you want it. Is that what you say?
That's exactly right.
And yet a little while ago you referred to Jesse Jackson as your master.
Did that slip out?
Yeah?
He is my master, and I look up to him. He is the one that helped me develop my anti-crime program.
No wonder it stinks.
Right. Well, it isn't. It calls for not only the complete legalization of drugs, but we won't stop there. The complete and total legalization of crime. Licensing of criminals is essential to the future health of the United States.
Have you come up with a photo ID plan?
That's exactly right. This must have leaked out. Every criminal in New York State, come March of 1991, will be issued a photo ID card. Upon presentation of that card to a prospective victim, the victim is legally forcibly restrained from resisting the robbery. You must cooperate with the robber.
Now, what happens if you don't cooperate with the robber?
A Class E felony.
In other words, a person who's victimized by a mugger.
That's correct.
If he resists, he winds up prosecuted rather than the mugger.
If the mugger is carrying an official New York State ID card, and we're going to be very strict with enforcement. If a victim under the age of 16 is victimized and refuses to cooperate, runs away or fights back, he will be prosecuted as an adult.
You are getting tough on crime.
Will you please wait a minute, Mr. Governor? Bob, please, I'm getting a signal. It's 8:54, we'll be back.